Right off the bat,
damn,
you can see how this Haslab is bigger and better than any previous Giant-Man. Hello guys, it's Adam the Collector, and for this review we are taking a look at the Hasbro Marvel Legends Giant-Man Haslab action figure. And as such, it's a big figure and an even bigger box. Up top we get a giant-sized Avengers logo, followed by a retro-inspired comic stamp featuring Giant-Man and the Wasp, along with details indicating that this is the third successful Marvel Legends Haslab. But the main draw is a spiffy artwork voted on by backers of this project, showing off Giant-Man front and center along with Wasp and 6 other Avengers below, parading through a city street. Each side features a headshot of the original Avengers, Wasp, Hawkeye, Thor, Iron Man, Black Widow, Captain America, and the Hulk. And when we get to the back of the packaging, we get artwork of an empty city street with a few battle-damaged Ultron bots. It's kind of plain, but it might make for a decent backdrop for those interested. The top of the packaging, just a simple 60 Years of Avengers logo. The bottom, the Legends Earth's Mightiest logo, and then that pretty much does it. I'm not really blown away by the packaging, but that's really the job of the figure inside. So what do you say we bust out this Giant-Man Haslab and see if this larger-than-life figure truly is a big deal or a major letdown? And for those of you, like myself, who thought the previous 6-inch Giant-Man didn't quite cut it, you're in luck because
damn.
Right off the bat, you can see how this Haslab is bigger and better than any previous Giant-Man, but that doesn't mean it's perfect, and I'll explain why in just a bit. But first, let's take a look at the accessories. Giant-Man here includes an angry faceplate, a smiling faceplate, and a zombie faceplate, in addition to zombified antennas and white antennas for a more retro-inspired look. And right off the bat, I have to say, this Giant-Man Haslab is a sight to behold. It's big.
2,500 tons of awesome.
Well, maybe not quite that big, but at 24 inches tall, there's a lot of detail they managed to pack into it, especially when we get to the head sculpt. The cowl is a completely separate piece with the head sculpted underneath, but really sells the illusion of him actually wearing a mask. The head is a very rich red color, and it has these divots in the costume to give it some real-world texture like we see in some of the Marvel movies. Kind of reminds me of the surface of a strawberry. Getting back to his face, his skin is molded in a flesh-colored plastic, but we have some subtle shadows on it to really give it a more lifelike look. I love the pink that we're getting from the lips. His eyebrows have some subtle brown shading to him, but my favorite part of this figure by far has to be his eyes. They have this rich hazel colored paint, and the light reflects off them so well. His black antennae are a separate piece and can be articulated as such. They're just held together with a simple peg and can be plugged in with relative ease. When we go to the side of his head, the white rectangular design of his costume are actually separate pieces, and it gives a nice level of dimension to his cowl. And then when we go to the back, we can see a subtle bit of shadowing where the costume bunches near the top of his neck. That dry brushing is present all over his back, really helping to accentuate his muscle groups. We get some wrinkles located on the middle of the spine, his triceps, and his elbows. I appreciate that his straps are a completely separate piece. They should have been on the 6-inch version, the real bummer that they were painted on, because it really does make a difference. And as you can see, those straps don't hinder his torso articulation at all. I really dig the leathery texture they managed to put into these straps, and we can find that same texture when we get to his gloves. It's quite impressive. I also like how the gloves are raised from the red portions of his costume. And while we're here, we might as well address this figure's big claim to fame, the articulated fingers. The Legends team was really touting how his fingers were completely articulated. And I'm happy to report that the 29 points of articulation we get in each hand is pretty functional. There are 3 swivel hinges located in each finger segment. The thumb only has 2, but we get the addition of the swivel piece to help bring his thumb into its palm. You can articulate his hands in all kinds of ways. You can have him striking the John Cena. Easily ball his hand up into a fist for punching. He can give a thumbs up with ease. And if you're feeling daring, you can have him flipping a really big bird.
Go away.
That's not very polite. We'll just put that back down. Getting a little bit lower, we get this electric blue dry brushing for his silver belt. His blue trunk features an incredible amount of texture in addition to wrinkles to help bring him to life. It's present on both the front and the back of the figure.
That's America's ass.
More wrinkles, dry brushing, and texture are present on the back portions of his legs. I love the added detail of this zipper on the back of his boots. It's a shame that wasn't painted silver considering this is a Haslab. Just like his upper body, the red portion of his legs are sculpted incredibly well. Like his gloves, we have that same raised sculpted detail on the top of his boots. I love the way they sculpted his boots bunching up near his ankles, just like you might expect a real costume to do. Dry brushing is present all over, as well as that same leathery texture on the straps and the gloves. And you know what they say about big feet?
Big feet.
big boots.
which means there's a lot of room for detail on the bottom. I love the added touch of the pin particle in between the treads. And broadly speaking, that takes care of most of the major details about this figure, but what about the articulation? If you have the Renew Your Vow Spider-Man, then you kind of know what to expect. It's basically a larger version of this articulation scheme. That means you're gonna get a pretty generous ball joint at the neck, swivel hinges at the shoulder that ratchet. The same is true for his double jointed elbows, but no ratchets at the bicep. He has a decent swivel at the upper torso, plus a ratcheted ab crunch. It goes back a decent amount too. He has ratchets at his ball jointed hips, but don't expect him to do the splits. Swivels at the upper thighs with detents that help him lock into position. He has ratchets at the double jointed knees, more ratchet joints at the ankle with pretty decent range front and back. They also rock from side to side a good bit. And last but not least, a little bit of toe articulation. And while you do have to be mindful about his weight, if you're careful, you can get Giant-Man in cool poses like this one where he's about to stomp out a cosmic threat like Thanos. You can have him balancing on his toes to achieve this giant-sized punch. And if you're feeling really creative, you can have him striking a hero pose and growing and shrinking back and forth between his 6-inch and giant-sized forms. Huge. But if you're done posing and you want to change up Giant-Man's look, he does come with a few accessories like these white antennae. Sometimes in the comics, Giant-Man was drawn with white antenna instead of black. It's just really a matter of preference, but they swap on using these pegs easily enough. Now, there are probably a lot of collectors that prefer this look. I'm not one of them. And for a few reasons too. One, I think it makes him look a little bit older. Two, the 6-inch Hasbro Pulse version doesn't have white antennas, so it really doesn't make sense if you're trying to pose the two figures together. And three, perhaps the most important reason,
once you go black, you never go back.
So while I don't mind that they included these, I'm gonna change mine back. But the real fun begins when we start swapping out his facial expressions, and we can do that with these faceplates. A smiling one and an angry one. And they swap out pretty easily too. All we have to do is pop his head off, and then what you're gonna wanna do is fish out his head like so. Now we have an empty cowl and a funny shaped head. I'm not gonna lie, this cowl looks pretty cool by itself. As for his head, it's a little bit unsightly, but what we can do from here is remove his faceplate like so. And you can see how his eyes are actually separate pieces. They're actually painted behind this clear plastic piece right here. Not only does this protect the eye paint underneath, but it gives the eyes a very solid glassy look, making them incredibly lifelike when attached. Unfortunately, mine came with two pairs of eyes looking off the Giant-Man's left side. But with that out of the way, we can go ahead and switch those for Giant-Man's smiling head sculpt, and as you can see, there's that second pair of eyes looking off to the left I was talking about. Fits on easily enough. Then we just have to grab his cowl, and what we'll do is go in eyes first and then just pop it in. And the other thing that you gotta pay attention to is that each faceplate comes with these two tabs right behind the bottom jaw. They just softly clip into these gaps on the cowl to give him a more seamless look. Doing that does make a difference. I'm not gonna lie, this faceplate's kinda creepy. But I do appreciate that they gave it to us. I can see a lot of collectors having a lot of fun with this one. It looks like he has a really good secret he's keeping. But my favorite head sculpt by far is the angry one. The Legends team nailed this one. Those gritting teeth, some of his gums peeking out from underneath the lips, that furrowed brow, I just love the emotion they captured in. Now this faceplate is easily its best one. I can see a lot of collectors having fun with this one, getting Giant-Man in a bunch of cool action scenes. Now one thing that you will notice is that his eyes aren't looking exactly straight away. They're pointing down just a little bit. And that's important because you can actually swap the eyes independently from the faceplate with the other faceplates that he comes with to give them slightly different looks as well, as you can see here. So depending on how you pose him, you can really make it look like he's looking down in a convincing way. Unfortunately, this campaign only managed to unlock one of its stretch goals, which is this zombified head here. There was another Super Skull head that I think really should have been included in the base offering, but we played with the cards we're dealt. The zombified head, on the other hand, looks really great. I like these gnarly yellow teeth. The tongue is a separate piece as well. You can see all of his diseased, grayed out skin. His eyebrows have now turned to deathly white, and my favorite part about this is that he has these cloudy, bloodshot eyes. And where his nose is torn away, you can actually see the skeleton beneath. It also came with these two slightly chewed up, battle damaged antennae. The sculpt on these ones are a bit different, and they have a little extra paint just to sell the look. Just like all the other faceplates and antennas, they'll swap out just as easily as before. And even though this is likely not the way I'm gonna display him in my collection, I have to admit, they nailed the look. It blends in seamlessly with his cowl. And if you really want to sell the look, you can articulate his hand so that he looks extra creepy. In fact, how about we grab an unsuspecting hero? I think Captain America will do. Cannibalism, more like capitalism, am I right? You know, because this is America. Oh, and before I forget, just like the other eyes, these cloudy eyes can be swapped out. So if you want this zombie faceplate to have a clear set of eyes, you can absolutely do that. If you ask me, it makes them look a little bit creepier. And by that same token, you can also swap out those cloudier zombie eyes with another faceplate. My personal favorite is using it with a smiling expression, because with it you can make it look like he's on that Quantum Realm Chronic. The herb got Hank feeling like the Jolly Green Giant.
Ho ho ho.
Green Giant.
Now as we wrap up, I know Giant-Man doesn't come with a whole heck of a lot, but there are a few toys that I found in store that you might be able to pair up with this guy to get the creative juices flowing. Like these Matchbox action driver sets. I found them at Ollie's. This one's based off Pizza Hut, but I'm personally quite partial to the FedEx set. So you can create some really fun scenes like this one with Giant-Man trying to satiate his giant-sized appetite, or you can channel your frustrations with this FedEx set for all those toy deliveries they keep messing up. But if that's not doing it for you, how about this giant-sized toilet? This is called a Skibbity toilet. It's been clogging the shelves at Walmart for a few months now. And according to the packaging, it says there's a special surprise inside. Yeah, it's pretty ridiculous. But I personally got it because it looks like it's just the right size for this Giant-Man. So you can recreate your very own Avengers level emergencies. I know this looks a bit ridiculous, but honestly, what's the point if you're not having fun with your figures? Now as for size comparisons, Giant-Man stands about 24 inches tall, so I thought I'd pair him up with some of the larger figures I have in my collection, like the Bandai Power Rangers Legacy Collection Dragon Zord, Ninja Mega Falcon Zord, and Tiger Zord. Here's how he stacks up next to the G.I. Joe Classified Haslab Cobra His Tank, the Vamp, and the Serpentor and Air Chariot barely come up to his knees. He's gonna dwarf all of McFarlane's mega scale figures, like the Banshee from Avatar, the Witcher Kikimora creature, the Violator from Spawn, Suicide Squad's King Shark, and the Batmobile's vehicle. Here he is with some large-scale NECA figures, the Aliens Power Loader, the 12-inch 2014 Godzilla, the Spider Gremlin, Ed 209 from RoboCop, and the Aliens Xenomorph Queen. I think he'll pair up nicely with any of the NECA street scene dioramas. Here he is with the TMNT movie version, and he stands about an inch taller than Diamond Select's Ghostbusters Firehouse diorama. And then finally, as always, here's how he looks under black light. For a big figure, not much of an effect. Now as for my final thoughts, the Giant-Man Haslab is a very enjoyable figure. His joints work amazing, the detail on him is great, and you can have a lot of fun with the different options you have with the faceplates. Now with that said, I still stand by everything I said originally about this figure in my Everything Wrong With video. As good as it is, Hasbro could have done so much more. There could have been figures added. They could have thrown in all the unlocks they originally showed. And I think all of that would have been possible at the price point they were selling this thing at. That's also not to ignore the flaws this figure does have. I'm missing an extra set of eyes, as are a lot of collectors. And for something that they have over a year to prepare for, that shouldn't happen at all. Still, if you manage to back the campaign, I think you're going to be pretty happy with your purchase. This figure is literally head and shoulders above any other Giant-Man release. The other ones don't begin to compare. That being said, while I wouldn't have minded if I missed out on this item, for $200, I'm pretty glad I have it in my collection. But that'll do it for this review. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Don't forget to like and share my video, especially if you think others might find it enjoyable as well. Be sure to stick around for a gallery at the end, and as always, collect responsibly.